It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
What is up, everybody? Zeke Rodriguez here with the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. As always, with the amazing and awesome Alice Lara.
Hola, guacin on today.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, guac on. So we are here with our traditional Mondays. We're back to Mondays again. Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. A lot going on. The world's falling apart as always, but it's probably worse now than ever before. I mean, nuclear war has been getting thrown around. Russia's hanging. We're gonna get into. We'll go national, global, and we'll go local like we normally do. But yeah, you know, we got people. Russians are over there on the Cuba side now. Heard about that. Putin's basically threatening Europe and America, and we're just bombing them for no reason. Basically, Ukraine's just bombing Russia, and so we got a lot to get into today. Aside from the stuff we just opened up with, Alice, what are you thinking? What is on your mind?
Well, we have as Don Jorge used to like to say, a plethora of things to talk about.
Plethora.
Plethora. Hey, that could be a plethora. I wonder if that is Spanish. Plethora. But it means a lot. But what I really want to talk about is also just to start off the show, because I think it kind of illustrates what's going on in our world as far as elections and things.
Right.
So did you watch any of the Trump rally?
I did. I watched it, and I realized it's kind of like a stand-up comedian. You know, he's kind of,
it's funny.
It's kind of the same. It's the same stuff. He rehashes it. No teleprompter though, in his defense. So.
An hour, no teleprompter.
He does it the old school traditional speech way. You have your highlight, your talking points, and you just kind of go with them. And it's a little different every time, but as long as you hit your main talking points and get your point across, that's all that matters. That's what he does.
I think the only other politician that could probably do that without a teleprompter would be you.
I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at it. That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
No, it's really true. I mean, he just gets up there and he does it. But also, he was in Las Vegas, Nevada, which was very hot outside. Mm-hmm. And then before that, he was in my old stomping grounds in Phoenix. Some of my friends were right behind him and stuff. But if you watch the one in Phoenix, he had Sheriff Joe Arpaio was on there for a few minutes.
And we were just hanging out with him.
Yeah, it was really cool. He was just on a show recently. If you haven't watched that, please watch it. We're getting a lot of good feedback. And that one originated from Arizona, but we got to be on there with the sheriff. But now what they're doing, and I have to say this because, you know, we're two Latino Republicans here at the Chips and Salsa Show in New Mexico. And now what they're trying to do, the left is trying to say, oh my gosh, so, you know, President Trump, they don't even call him President Trump, Trump he's with Arpaio. Arpaio's a big racist. I mean, they're just trying to portray this thing on Arpaio. They are, I think it shows desperation. They understand, I think you would agree with me, Zeke, that the Latinos, the minorities, we understand that Trump is the better choice than Biden. So they're desperate. They've got to do something about it. So they're reaching, man. They're reaching.
They are reaching, and it's a crazy time to be alive. I always say that, but I think about this, like the programming, the propaganda, it's getting people still. You can still see people. They're so insulated. They got Biden stickers all over their cars and stuff like that. Crazy. And I'll say that's crazy to me, to support that man in any ways. Absolutely, there's something going on there. But whilst they're programmed in their little insulated box, you got people waking up like crazy everywhere. Hispanics, Latino. I mean, he just took over the Hispanic vote, right? I mean, that just came out. He's dominating.
You see the polls, and they are rising.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Every day.
And even if you don't think those polls are perfect, when I see them, I think a lot of times, because I never do a poll. I think they're probably higher, don't you?
Oh,
right?
Gotta be. And that's what frustrated me about New Mexico, because back in 2020, I was really riding the polls, and New Mexico was coming out red. Like the big polls, Quinnipiac, like the big polls were like, New Mexico is a red state. That was like the conclusive polling, like from early on, like 6 months before the election even. Wow. So when we were like one of the first states that had their count in, and we were hard blue. Man, that pissed me off, because that was completely intuitive, or counter to what I had learned about what New Mexico was going to be on election day.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was still in Arizona at that point. But what I do recall during that election is people that I would talk to here in New Mexico. I have a lot of family. I have a lot of friends still. And they were telling me they didn't really know anyone who voted for Biden.
Right.
You know, and you had your pulse on everything because you were very active at that time in politics.
In it.
What do you think happened? I mean, you can point to a lot of things that are not, appropriate in the election world, you can say that. But even with all that.
Well, you know, and I can talk about this now, guys, because I think a lot of people by these days can say that the last election had a lot of anomalies, right? So what I learned recently from someone who ran a Democratic campaign, a high-level one, I won't say which one, there's a lot of people who vote out of state, guys. A lot. Mm-hmm. And not only are they trying to get rid of those, you know, people who have moved or have passed away, but they're actually procuring them to submit their vote.
So you're saying there still are probably on the New Mexico voter registration rolls.
A lot.
So that's why they can send in a vote. And then just a reminder too, in New Mexico, when you go to vote, you don't have to show ID. You can just give them your name and they show a screen. Hey, does that look good? Yeah, it looks
They
good.
get mad at you if you have an ID. Nah, they kind of...
Don't show me that ID.
You can tell, like, I don't know, people's body language, who's a Republican, who's not.
Interesting.
So some guys will go up there stiff and they want to give them an ID. I think you're one of them, right? You gave them an ID.
I gave
anyway,
them my
right?
voter registration card.
A lot of guys do that.
And I handed that to them because they scan it or something. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be difficult.
No, I love it. I know guys like that too, that they don't care if there's no voter ID. They go and give them an ID anyway. And so they're kind of trained to deal with that. But no, yeah, you go up there, no ID. I just voted the other day, so did you. And it's quite the mockery of the American voting system. You know, it's like there's no safeguards, no controls whatsoever. If you moved, your voter registration is still there intact at that house that you last lived at. If you died, no one's there to make sure that you're off the voter roll. You don't need an ID to check in or anything, so you can by extension go to different voting polling locations and vote different times for different people who move out of state. Very, very easily, no accountability.
It could be easy, and you don't want to encourage that.
No.
But if I were an evil person, I could find, oh, so and so they don't vote. I know that they don't vote. I could go up there and say, oh, my name is, I don't know, Betsy Brown or whatever, and boom, there it is in front. And then maybe later Betsy will go and try to vote and say, hey, you have already voted. No, I would never do that. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that. That's horrible and evil. But that could be solved if you had to show your ID.
Yeah, vote
or
early,
you had to verify
vote often.
Your signature. And here's the thing, too. Things are so advanced technology-wise that it seems to me I could go in there, and when I signed, they could actually at that point probably go and verify my signature. When I worked at a bank eons ago, we had this little yellow light card.
How hard is that?
That had your signature. So like if you came in or Joey came in to take money out, I'd say, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what we have on file. It matches exactly. I mean, it's very interesting.
The stupidest thing is to have machines count the votes. It's like every polling place has a couple hundred votes. It's like, count them, dude. You never hand counted freaking some money before? Like, I guess because I run a business, I'm more experienced at counting cash. It's not hard to count 1, 2, 3, and you have a team and you guys all, it's like, that's how they used to do it. That's how they do it in Argentina. They have a good president. But it's just pathetic that we use these stupid machines when it's like so much more transparent, so much easier to hand count them. I mean, it's obviously there's issues going on. That being said, that's what happened. There's just nobody cleaning up the voter rolls, and so let's talk about that. Too big to rig, right? That's Trump's new thing. Too big to rig, and that's a big talk. Everybody's talking about it right now because at this point, I think everyone's PTSD is kicking in from 2020. Like even hardcore Republicans and hardcore Trump supporters that I know, they're just like, he ain't gonna be able to do it, man. It's not gonna happen, bro. And I'm like, you know what? I can understand that because I feel your PTSD kicking in from 2020.
And now, are they more afraid of the system or just the fact that they don't think people are going to support him?
The system. The system. I think most people, even Democrats now, are coming around like, man, he's gonna win. He's going to win. Like, they're going to try to put him in jail, but he's going to win in jail. I heard a guy tell me today, he wasn't Democrat, but he was a libertarian, hates both parties, hates Trump. And he's like, even though he hates Trump, I mean, this guy hates him.
Wow. He
was like, he's probably still going to win. He's going to have to end up winning in jail. So even he is like, it's just everywhere. People are voting for Trump.
And was this guy willing to admit that Trump would make the better president? Or is he just a...
Well, that's the funny thing is we get into that. It's like, dude, he's way better than Biden. He's like, oh, well, I hate the Democrats too. I can't stand what they're doing. I'm like, okay, but I'm asking you, which one do you think is better, Trump or Biden? And that's when they change the subject. It's really interesting for me to like observe people, because it's like, what defense mechanism are they going to use? What kind of mental jujitsu? Because look at the guy Biden. We're going to talk about that. He's been on the news a lot lately for pooping on himself willy-nilly. And it's funny, but it's not. It's just dementia. It's dementia. That's what happens if you get dementia and you get older, guys. It sucks, man. You can't control your bowels, and you get mad about it. So you literally run around crapping all over the place, usually smearing it on the wall, and you get mad at people who are around you. It's a very sad existence. I mean, that's depressing.
It's just a wonderful topic. I was just talking to Joey. I think you were here too, or you might have gone out to get the sodas. But a podcaster that I was listening to was saying when he was out there, it must have been for D-Day. Mm-hmm. And so he's up there on stage, and the First Lady is next to him, and he's squatting down. And he was saying, what he was doing right behind him were our World War II guys. Jeez. So he's basically crapping on them. I'm trying to be a nice person about it. Defecating. And I don't know, there's talk of it's doubles, it's an act, it's distracting us, it's doing whatever it is, it's horrible. I mean, we are the United States of America. And if you have to support Biden, I mean, I could have respect for you for a person who decides, okay, I'm not going to support Biden, but I really hate Trump, so maybe I'll go with RFK, But they're not even willing to do that. It's like, man, it's got to be Biden.
I can't imagine the delusion, and I hate to say that, but that's the only way for me to describe it, of seeing, and it's not even, let's just discount Biden's character. He's been a horrible person in his life, horrible family, horrible kids, whatever. I mean, his kids actually try to dime him out, so I give him a little bit more credit than his dad. At least they're trying to be, admitting about some of this stuff. But he's got dementia. Just like all that aside, the fact that this guy poops himself, he can't even, put up a cogent thought ever, and you're still going to throw Trump under the bus and vote Biden?
No.
Really?
And then what that says about his administration? His handlers don't take care of him. If my boss had stuff like that, I would be taking care of him.
Well, he refuses to wear a diaper.
Do that. Oh, God.
He refuses to wear a diaper. That's the whole problem.
How do you know all this personal information?
Oh, it's out there. Secret Service talks about it. And,
that's gross.
And they have to bring extra clothes for him because he refuses to wear a diaper. And when it happens, they corral around him, they pull him out, they change him up. And he talks. He's in on camera. I posted it on Facebook before. He's like, my butt's been wiped. He talks about it all the time. He's like a kid. He's joyful because he just got his ass wiped. And I'm not, hey, that's a...
I can make a really bad joke now, but I won't.
Throw it out there. But hey, I just don't get these people. Like the guy just physically should not be our president. But here we are throwing Trump under the bus. It's wild.
And even, okay, now I'm not a big fan of our vice president, but that's what her job is supposed to be. You fill in for the president. They don't even have maybe the confidence to put her every once in a while instead of him. Obviously, he can't do his presidential duties, but she can't do them either.
No, she's incompetent.
I think it was even our guest we had last week, who is Michael Caine, and just put a plug in. He's running for the Doña Ana County District Attorney. So if you live in the county, vote for him. He's awesome. But he was saying, he says, I really thought, and I thought like him too, by this point, they would have him changed out with somebody else. I guess that still could happen.
He's made it all longer than I thought, but apparently he's all hopped up on all kinds of drugs, and that's why we don't see him very often, because they give him a whole bunch of stimulants, and he's got to crash for like a day or two.
Trump said, okay, it was at one of his rallies recently, I'll take a drug test if he'll take a drug test too. Did you hear him say that?
Drugs. But hey, let's go back to Too Big to Rig. What do you think about that?
Well,
because I think we can make it too big to rig.
I
think we can. But we got to have the right team going on the Republican side. Go ahead.
I think that as a Republican Party, I know a lot of people criticize our party, and rightfully so. We're not perfect. We've made mistakes. But we are a party that doesn't believe in killing babies, so I remain a Republican.
Don't like killing babies.
I remain a Republican. I think that everything needs to be done. If you can devote an hour a week to doing something political, if you can write a little check to a campaign, whatever you can do. But it's going to take all forces. Some people think, we got to chase that ballot. We got to get in the early ballot. Yeah, I think we need to do that. But we need to show up, and we need to support our candidates, and especially President Trump. And I don't know if we can do it, and that's why the Too Big to Rig, that's really genius. I think it's really genius. It needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, that's Trump right there for you, marketing. That's a great slogan. Too Big to Rig, I don't see Trump losing, just because I already see the pre-programming for another lockdown, which we'll get into right now. And then I see the pre-programming for what happens if Trump, or when Trump does get back in there, they're going to have all kinds of pro-Palestinian riots, a unfold around the country and all kinds of BLM stuff. We got 20 million migrants here, most of them military-age men. You know, so there's just so many things they can do to stifle it, even if he does find some way to get in there. So I don't know. I'm still kind of lucidly happy about what's going on right now. I feel like it's the beginning of the end for the evildoers on this planet, because more and more people are waking up. You know, they're starting to see the spiritual battle that's really going on. People are just fed up. So I don't know. I'm honestly ambivalent about it. I don't know if Trump's going to win or not.
So are you, my husband Mark, he's been, for a lot of years, he's been saying this. And to some extent, I do think it's true. But sometimes before things get a lot better, they have to get just a lot worse.
They do.
And they have to start affecting people. It's on so many issues. The illegal immigration. Biden just passed that border, only 2,500 a day or something like that. But there's so many things, and people are starting to be affected. Groceries, gas, things, just everyday living. You can be kind of comfortable and nothing's really bothering you, but then when it starts hitting you personally, it's all relative until it's your relative or your money. And that's what I think is bringing people more into the fold and having them pay attention. But as you always say, you can pay attention, but if you don't go to some alternate resources, kind of like us, that's what we do here. We talk about stuff that you won't find on your typical mainstream media.
Nope.
And if you don't do that and you don't know that, then you become, or you are, a low information voter. I mean, even myself, I try to make myself watch the other side too, even though I don't want to, because I usually can dispute because I've seen something else. But if you have to keep an open mind, because that way when someone comes your way, wherever it is on Facebook or even just at a conversation somewhere you happen to be talking to someone, then you'll have information from both sides. But it's hard to be in that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is I'll debate anybody. It's like a lot of guys I disagree with, or girls, or whoever, when they're talking about, because I ran into it a lot this past week, because I'm a dark guy, I'm a red-skinned guy, and when I'm working, I'm trying to make conversation. I made a Facebook post about it too, but I deleted it.
Do you mean redskin? Do you mean like political?
No, I'm just like,
Native
I'm
American?
native. I'm freaking native. Yeah. So people were just coming up to me all week this week talking mess about Trump. They're talking crap about Trump. That's all they want to do. They're like, hey, Trump sucks, huh? And I'm like, not really. And so that kind of like opened their eyes, like, oh, this is another Trump supporter. I think they're finding out they're being surrounded, but at the same time, I can see if you're that insulated, if you only see the same information, it's an information war. Yeah. And, it's such gaslighting. I kind of turn the TV off, but that's what these people watch every day. Straight lies. So I can understand why they act the way they do, why they're so emotional about things, because that's just all that they see and watch all day. I don't know how to counter it. All I know is what's going on around these people that I talk to is there's a lot more people waking up than they are. It's like the people who are super crazy are getting crazier, but little by little there's more of us than them. And that's what I see right now.
You're right about emotion, and if I talked about this last week, I apologize, but I was at a doctor's appointment and sitting there, and the man who was sitting next to me was waiting for his wife. He happened to be Latino, okay, like me. And that's when they were having the presidential elections in Mexico.
Right.
And I was asking him, because I overheard him in Spanish. He
was
talking about it. And then we had a conversation, and then all of a sudden he's the one that asked me. And he says, who do you think for president? And so for like 2 seconds in my mind, I said, well, I'm going to tell him Trump, but he's probably not going to be for Trump. That's terrible. That's very prejudiced of me, but that's what I thought. So when I said Trump, he's like, yes, he put his thumbs up, and then we had a great conversation. Even when I left, he was still waiting for his wife, and he gives me a big thumbs up, for Trump. And it made me feel so good, and it really reiterated that, and people are paying attention, and they're being affected. And he talked about all those things that we just talked about. He says gas and how when Trump was in there, it was so much better. And I could tell, that was probably, Spanish was his first language. It doesn't mean necessarily that he was a naturalized citizen. But, here in New Mexico, we still have a lot of the culture. It's very influential, whether you are cognizant of that or not. It still is. Even I moved back after 30 plus years, and you still have hardcore family is very important.
Oh, yeah.
And your
Huge.
religion is very important still.
Yep. Big time. Big time Catholic. A lot of spirituality going on in this city.
Still.
So, yeah, You know, the other thing too is they're going to do what they can, and we kind of talked about it earlier. They're going to do what they can to make sure he doesn't get in there. And there's a lot of word getting thrown around that the bird flu is going to be coming back.
Heard that.
And they're going to try to do lockdowns again. But what we had like a little epiphany, me and the friends over the weekend. And do you guys remember how bad we got treated here? It wasn't like this in Arizona, I guess, right?
Yeah, because I've only been back 2 years, so during all that, I wasn't here. But that kind of influenced our decision to move back too, because I remember we couldn't even come visit hardly because it was just wacky.
It was wacky,
crazy. I couldn't believe how much restrictions that you guys had.
Masked by the county. So wearing a mask, we're talking about how shamed we were for not wearing masks in public. I mean, you were just like ridiculed, criticized, chastised. My friend Kindy, shout out to Kindy, she freaking refused to wear her mask in Walmart. She was in the back too. And the security came and drug her ass out of Walmart. She had it on Facebook, but she took it down eventually because she's over there fighting with security. They're dragging her out there because she wouldn't put her mask on.
Security took her out.
Dragged her ass out of there. Yep.
Wow.
I remember that. And Dora at the school board meetings, you know, she had it just under her nose, and they kicked her out of the school board meeting for just under her nose.
And so did they physically remove Dora too?
Pretty much. It was like a 6'4" guy, and Dora's like
Dora's
5
shorter
foot.
than me.
Yeah, she's like 5 foot nothing. And yeah, it gets her out of there. It was pretty hardcore. But so they're gonna bring these lockdowns back. I don't know how well people are gonna take it. You know, I just think a lot of people are fed up. And really, when I tell people, because I'm with this stuff, I understand this stuff more than most people do. I talk to some people like, hey, they're going to bring the lockdowns back. It's always a reaction of, what? They freak out. They flip out in anger, immediate anger. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. If you just mention bringing the lockdowns back, people flip out.
Nobody's like said, oh, I'll be happy to do that because, you know, I might make somebody sick. You're not getting that.
No.
I think they did overkill here. It appears to be, anyway.
You guys got to get out and vote, man. This is pathetic.
But you know what? You're right, because you need to start talking about that, because then we'll be prepared for it. You know, I'm just going to start asking people that have been here a while. So, you know, did you comply? Would you comply again if that happened? Because in Arizona, you know, I remember there was a big park, and then it just was ridiculous. Why would you be out in this big park, and why would you be wearing a mask outside in the sunshine? And I would see little kids riding their bikes with the mask on.
That's so sad to me. That was sad to me.
And first of all, you can't breathe with those things. I think they're bad for you.
They're bad for you overall.
They're really bad.
There's so much. The material, there was like little sprigs that was in that cotton material that would get into your throat.
Oh.
It was just all kinds of bad stuff. But Joy was talking about, so even if they do the lockdowns, Fauci was just on trial. You know, he's getting grilled by Congress, and he admitted that the kids wearing a mask. He admitted he made that up, and the 6 foot rule, he made that up. He's on record saying that now. So
he made that up without any scientific backing for that.
There was never any. But
it sounded good, right? Oh, 6 feet away.
Well, they look kind of cool. At first, the masks were like, yeah, it's kind of cool, man. But it wasn't cool at all. It wasn't cool at all. And it was demeaning as hell, you know, because what it does is and a lot of people don't talk about it, it covers up your micro expressions in your face. And like most of our ability to understand our emotions and other emotions are based off those micro expressions. Without those, we really don't have a sense of humanity. So when they were masking us up like that, it was completely destroying our ability to understand who we were and who other people were, which is essentially consciousness, altering the consciousness of human beings. Super evil. But
you can't smile at somebody. You can't see how, like you say, the expression, so you can tell. Even like, you know, we do the show here, but still, we look at each other because we're still communicating, even if it's not verbally. So
80% is physical. 80% of communication is through the body, through the face. So when they took that away from us, it really, man, I just remember feeling so demeaned. But I've been seeing a lot more people wearing masks lately. You know, have you guys? I have.
You know, when I noticed it, it was
crazy
during the winter, and then like when I'd go to mass, you would see 1 or 2 people. Typically, they were elderly people, and I think what happened is they kind of got trained. They didn't want to get a cold.
Well, they're paranoid
they
anyway.
Sick,
yeah.
And they got, you know, a little paranoid. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I can understand
Might
that.
as well, yeah.
Because if you're 80 years old and you want to do that, okay, that's fine. And really, they would just kind of wear it in mask, and they were around a lot of people. Okay, so that was probably their thing.
Yeah.
I just hated those things. I hated having to wear them.
I hate it too, and I remember having to wear them sometimes. And there was a long time when I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time. I would just make her go get groceries. I just give her them. I'm not going in there. I'm not gonna go wear a mask in there. And she would do it. She was cool.
She would do the mask.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into any restaurant or store for months. I didn't go into a restaurant or a store for months because I just refused to wear a freaking mask. I hated the way it felt. So I don't know how people are going to take it. If they try to lock this down and try to bring masks back, I don't think it's going to be taken that well.
Well, and do you think also, Zeke, that the timing, because what are we? We're in June, so it'll be interesting the timing, just like last time. You know, we might start like what about September, October? You know, what's your conspiracy quotient on that?
What are the odds? Conspiracy quotient? I like that. Well, what are the odds of another hardcore pandemic in like 4 years? Exactly 4 years from the last one, which the one before that was like 100-something years before, like the Black Plague or the Spanish flu. It's like, come on, man. People are just so dumb. I'm sorry to say it, but like, come on, guys. Like, you know, we've been getting distracted since we came out of the womb with TV, with vaccine after vaccine. I don't even talk about the modern day. I'm just like, these kids are getting jacked up on vaccines compared to the way they used to be. Yeah, and so you just don't really have a shot in hell. I mean, they don't want us to be critical thinkers. They don't
pun intended, shot in hell.
That is a scary pun. So, I don't know. I see people waking up, but New Mexico's a weird place. Like, people are I think people here are more scared than anything. Like, people don't want to register as Republican because they don't want to be attacked. They don't want to say they support Trump because they'll be attacked. And I think it's because most of the jobs here are like government, institutional, you know, public schools, hospitals. Like, this is the only place to really get a job around here. There's not really any private commerce here.
Wow.
So to be outspoken in this area, in Las Cruces or New Mexico in general, you really can't because you're working for the man. And I know how that is. I recently experienced that. And if you can't, you can't think. You can't be your own person, you know?
And even worse than that, though, Zeke, what I've noticed, even businesses that way, private commerce.
For real.
They're so freaked out and afraid, you know, and they might quietly admit that they are actually conservative or Republican, but they don't wear it on their sleeve and they don't advertise it. It's driven by fear.
I think it's big time fear.
And
big time.
It's really sad because as Americans, that's why we have freedom. So we don't have to be afraid of these things. And it's just getting worse. So because I wasn't here when they had all this stuff with the bioweapon, was it the governor seems to have an awful lot of power, but I would think that the Democrat-led legislature was very compliant with that.
Oh yeah, I mean they just gave her everything she wanted.
Did our Republicans fight back?
There were a few. I was part of that team, and a lot of them they just won their Senate primaries to them. Shout out to Ann Thornton, Jay Block, Audrey Trujillo. They all won their primaries for Senate handily. I mean, handily. They did really well. And I mean, they did a lot of work getting their brand name out there for Secretary of State. Audrey, Ann Thornton ran for Lieutenant Governor, and Jay Block ran for Governor. So, and I think particularly Jay Block was outspent and out-earned massively, and he still dominated in the primary. So that's a big shout out to Mr. Block.
Wow.
But we were on that team. We were anti-mask. We were, you know, but we were kind of representing the new Republican. The older guard Republicans that have been here for a while, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but they just, you know, hey, he didn't really do much. You know, he didn't really do much, dude. There was us at the school board meetings. You know, there was us traveling the state with Ben Luna, you know, letting people know that these lockdowns and these medical mandates are illegal and unconstitutional. You know, and nobody really had the balls to come out and say it, but we did, and I think it made give people a lot of hope at least. Because doesn't it feel good when you're around people who have the same mindset?
Absolutely.
So that's what we did. Let's see what they do this next time around. Excuse me.
I also remember I think it must have been the Las Cruces City Council, but I believe it was even a national story, and somebody was getting in trouble for trying to get into the meeting without a mask, and the security was taking them away. They couldn't even get into the meeting. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, it was either you have to have a mask or have been vaccinated for a while. Like, they would let you walk around without a mask in, like, the government building, the city building, as long as you were vaccinated.
You probably had to show proof of that.
Yeah, your vaccine card, you know.
Show me your papers.
Remember, that was normal for a while. Where you had to have a vaccine card. I remember that. And, man, that was a rough time. People don't even talk about that. The type of, like, PSYOP programming that was going on at that time. I mean, do you guys remember it was like jab, 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 jab everywhere on the city government signs, on the radio, on the TV, on your phone, and all of a sudden now, just forget about it, like nothing happened. But that was an aggressive campaign.
They quickly forget. And what always, like, I talk about this all the time, but the big red flag for me when they started talking about the vaccine was they never talked about, okay, now, take care of yourself. Try to stay healthy. I know you're a healthy dude.
Yeah. Try to be.
Take some vitamins, maybe lose some weight, watch what you do and all that. But that was really not talked about by your Uncle Fauci.
It is not that hard to build your own immune system up, guys. I mean, it's like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice, but you just take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, 2,000 milligrams a day. I do, and I feel great. You take your vitamin D, you get your sunlight every day. You try to eat as little amount of processed food as you can. I mean, just little stuff like that goes along. Get some decent sleep. But they don't talk about that. It's crazy to me how they're like, okay, we're going to give you this one little shot, and you're going to be a cyborg superhuman now. Yeah, right, dude. It's not how the human body works at all.
So, again, I'm going to date myself, but when you were in school, what I remember, when you first start taking PE, what's that, like 5th or 6th grade or something?
I remember taking it younger, but yeah.
PE. And then there was like the president's fitness program. So you had a little card. I ran across it the other day going through my stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And so maybe you're 10 or 11, and they had a recommended amount of sit-ups you could do or run so fast a 50-yard dash. And then they would rate you. I was never a good athlete, but I could usually do at least average or better. For me, that was good. Did they ever have that kind of stuff? Which is kind of cool, because then you tried to get better the next time.
No, we had nothing like that. We had track and field and had like ribbons and stuff and had fun, but I remember distinctly them phasing that out. Like after 5th grade, like middle school, we had a really abysmal track program in middle school. And in high school, I ran cross country, but so I mean, they could be doing better with the fitness and the.
Do they require fitness in the schools still?
I don't think it's like what it used to be at all. I mean, to me, it feels like they just don't do anything. Go to these public schools and they just sit around, and the teachers are just brainwashing our kids. I don't know. I don't have any hopes for the public school system. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? It's not going to get any better. We're the worst educated state in the country, but yet the Democrats will sit there on their high horse and say, you know what, you got to keep letting us do what we want to do, which is usually invest in another program that's never been proven to work at all. It makes no sense at all, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep investing in new programs because we fail so bad. And that's what we do because we're Democrats. And we've been failing for 30, 40 plus years, but we're going to ask you to keep letting us fail. It's so Twilight Zone backwards. And so now there are charter schools here, and obviously private schools also here in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. So I would think that their scores are much better than the public schools, proficiency and things like that. They tend to do better.
Right.
They do tend to do better, but they still have a lot of control. The PED and the PEC still have a lot of power over the charter schools. I mean, look, all the education around the nationwide is abysmal. They've been dumbing down America for a while. I'm just trying to reflect on the fact that, me and you are aware, we're conscious, we talk about this stuff, but why does everybody else not know, or nobody care? The education system's so poor. The justice system, we just saw it attack Trump, and it's been used against me too, personally, here locally, and nobody seems to really care. It's so crazy how the human being is so easily distracted.
And
it?
Zeke, what about all the stories? I always think, what about the stuff we don't hear about? Somebody quietly, they just kind of got done with their court case or whatever, and they're so burned out and maybe broke, they just never want to even talk about it again. And I would, if you're out there and you have a story you'd like to tell, contact us.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that kind of stuff. Like, I was recently talking to someone in El Paso. I won't say his name yet, but he's going to be a guest on the show eventually. Very, very interesting guy. He has ran high-level Democrat campaigns, high-level Republican campaigns. His main thing was the Republicans don't want to spend any money. The Democrats will pay.
We are cheapskates. We like to watch our dollars.
We're conservative. But the Democrats will pay him $7,000 a month to do what he does, all day.
And what does he? Did he tell you what he does?
He does a lot of high-level campaign stuff. Yeah, he makes sure his people gets out there and votes. He makes sure the social media is on point. He does high-level stuff. And to do something like that for the Republican Party, they couldn't even pay him half of that. So he's in this position where it's like, well, I got to feed my kids. What do I do? $7,000 a month is nothing to, that's a lot of money.
And he gets results, and it's all legal. Everything that he does is legal.
It's all legal. So it's just weird how things pan out. Because the Democrats print money, right? That's what it is. They're printing money. They just it's fiat currency. That's about to crash too, by the way.
My gosh.
Saudi Arabia, Cypher just brought that up. Saudi Arabia, they had a 50-year contract to buy their oil from us. Was it
They were going to only use the U.S. dollars
Yeah.
to make that transaction.
Yeah, they were only going to use U.S. dollars. For 50 years, they had to use U.S. dollars to transact oil. That's all done now, and they didn't renew it. So the dollar fiat currency is like, it was designed to fail, really. I mean, the whole capitalist system, when it's fused with the fiat currency, the way they did it was that it's going to crash every 10 years. And if you study finance or anything about finance, you know that there's been a market crash every 10 years. And we're due. We're due for a big market crash. So now that the fiat currency is going to crash, I mean, hey, you guys got to get good at something. Start bartering, buy some silver. What do you want me to do?
Well, you should always have kind of a, different things in
You
your
got to
portfolio.
diversify for sure.
Diversify.
Don't be trusting no banks or cash right now. Hell no.
Wow, that's and I don't know if I saw that headline, but did that just happen, right?
What's that? I heard. Yeah, I heard about it.
It just
It
happened?
expired yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
I heard about it coming up like last year. They've been talking about it the past few years, but it finally cashed out. So,
But even me, a news junkie, I mean, there are so many things to keep up with. You just can't even keep up with them all. And I doubt people, most of them probably more like me, they hadn't heard about it. So I'm glad that you brought it up. Joey.
I did bring it up. We did bring it up. So yeah, the other thing too is the libertarian independent vote is on the rise. There's a lot more of those guys than I thought possible. It's like kind of like the gamer community. I didn't know how big the gaming community was, but geez, Maniz, there's more gamers in this world than you would ever freaking imagine.
Really?
Yeah, so you got to always talk love about the gamers. I love you, gamers.
So explain
But the
gamer
independence
for our audience.
What's that?
When you say gamer,
Gamers,
explain
so
what you mean by
guys
that.
or girls that play video games for a living. They'll stream it on Twitch, they'll stream it on whatever. They have their Instagram, social media accounts, and they win worldwide tournaments, and they make buku bucks, millions of dollars in these big online gaming tournaments.
It's
Big.
basically a vocation for them.
Yeah, it's huge. They sell out arenas to do these game tournaments. Like, I didn't even know how to learn about this myself, and I'm like, okay, I didn't know that. It's a huge market. And then you look at the independents. Like here in Doniana, we have just about, I think by now, more independents registered than Democrats and Republicans.
I was going to ask you, because that happened in Arizona recently too.
So yeah, then for sure here it's like that too now.
So I bet it's like, I just checked my precinct. In my precinct, we've got 32% Republican, which is pretty good for that Republican representation.
Okay.
38% were Democrats, and then the rest were independents. I think we had like 1 or 2% Libertarian. Now, I think though, a Republican, we all have like a little bit of L in us because we won't be Libertarian. I couldn't be a Libertarian because the Libertarians still not cool with, they're not as pro-life as I'd like them to be. And they're really, when's the last Libertarian that actually won an election?
Gary Johnson. He ran a Republican ticket though, but he was Libertarian.
Yeah, he was Libertarian.
Well, the independents and the Libertarian, like I had a guy reach out to me recently, and he's like, look, my vote doesn't count. I'd rather just not vote and let everything fall apart. And I'm like, okay, we've done that before. And he's like, when? I was like, well, recently. Basically what happened with Biden getting in is like no one got up and voted. So we let this horrible guy get in. So if you don't get in vote, then they let their guy in.
You're helping.
And look what happens. But then I got into the fact that, and this is just so intuitive for me, it's like, it's not just about the vote, guys. It's about getting behind the local candidates. It's that ethos and that spirit of bringing people together for freedom, for America, and that emanates around us with the observer effect. If you guys know anything about the observer effect, I mean, I don't know if you've heard about it. Basically, we can alter molecular presence simply by observing it. And they've done studies where if someone's not there to observe it, it's not there anymore. Now, I'm doing a horrible job giving it any justice at all. But,
okay, you're way up there.
But
say again, Zeke, say again.
Basically, the observer effect is that we can manifest reality with us just observing atoms and molecules. Without us being perceptually there to observe something, it doesn't really exist. So when we're there together collectively with our consciousness, with our minds, we are manifesting the reality that we want with our own observer effect. So it's not just about the 30-minute vote. It's about bringing people together. Like praying together is huge. They've done studies on that. I mean, people who don't know should know. When people pray together, you can lower crime. You can lower violence in a prospective area. That's because we're syncing our collective conscious together. And so more important than just showing up to vote on voting day for 30 minutes, it's more important to like hang out with your neighbor, talk about politics, try to envision and work towards the reality that you want for your community. That's what's important about voting, not just the voting action itself.
That makes sense because if you think about, it wasn't all that long ago, we were kind of a neighborhood. everybody knew your neighbors, and you not only just knew them, you probably knew about their family. The kids played together. You do stuff like go on picnics together and things like. It wasn't all that long ago, but now we've transitioned. And we're pretty much inside. Pretty much, we stay inside. Maybe we'll wave to our neighbors. I'm very lucky. The place we moved in, we've got some wonderful neighbors. We've gotten to know them, and but that's probably not. It's probably out of the ordinary because of just the way things are. And I think the lockdown too had a lot to do with that. But I can see what you're saying, and if we could get kind of back that way and get more into the reality of actually interacting with the other humans.
There's a lot more to it than just what we normally perceive with our third dimensional eyes, dude. Like when we're together, we all in sync, especially if we're on a spiritual linkage, like we're together, like on the same track spiritually. When we get together and we focus together, there's a lot of ethereal stuff going on that people don't want to talk about. But that's the truth of it. It's always been like that. That's why they wanted to lock us down. That's why they wanted to close churches but leave the strip joints open. It's all spiritual energy stuff. You're going to get that lower frequency stuff at the strip joint. You're not going to get that at the church. So what do they want to close down? Those higher frequency stuff, right? They want to get us away from each other. They don't want us to put our minds together, to put our spirits together and pray together. So what do? You put a mask over their face. You dehumanize. I mean, it's just, they did a fantastic job. You got to give them credit.
They really did.
They did a fantastic job.
You're right.
Like, you got to, give credit where it's due. They freaking had us good.
And one thing that did kind of grow out of it, we can do Zoom. People do Zoom, and you can still communicate. We use these things probably way too much. But it's none of that still substitutes for in person with somebody. No. That's why, like, even when we have a guest, you could do a guest on Zoom or by the phone stuff, but it's never the same as if you have them right there with you, because then you can get to know them a little better, read their visual clues. Communication is better, and all that. And if you can strengthen that at all, do it, because you won't be disappointed, and you get to know that person better.
I love it. I'm super extroverted. I was in a lot of pain for the lockdowns. I hated it. Hated wearing a mask. Hated being disconnected from people. I love bringing people together. So that being said, I don't think that the lockdowns are going to fare that well. The bird flu, man, there was a first case of a death in Mexico right after the new president got in. 37 got executed too, by the way. Did you know?
37
Did you hear about
people
that?
got executed.
Yeah, the 37 got assassinated before she got in. 37 presidential
cartels or what?
Well,
did that?
Well, I imagine they had something to do with it. But 37 presidential candidates in Mexico got assassinated before this recent one got in there.
Oh my gosh.
And then right after she got in, there was the first death case of
the mayor. That mayor of that town got assassinated.
That's right, the mayor.
The mayor did.
About that.
That was just one of the assassinations. They literally assassinated 37 people. That was mainstream news. 37 people.
No, one of the mayors that got elected into one of the cities, as soon as she got elected, they assassinated her as well.
They did not want her in there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the fact that even women, because women still in Mexico, there aren't that many politicians who are women, I would think, right?
There's just too much money on the line there. They get all the drugs from China, and they need to have their shit streamlined. Stuff streamlined, excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, that's just where it is in that country. Here in America, they're trying to jail Trump right now. It's like the same concept, It's like, but the backlash here, if they were to kill Trump, would be way graver than, like, we actually have a chance to fight back around here. Mexico, it's like the cartels own that country. So does the military, and that's just how that goes.
It's so bad, as we've talked about this before, and a lot of our ancestors, they came from Mexico to escape stuff like what's trying to happen here, or maybe in some respects it's already happening. It's really frightening, And so what do you think about the fact that Biden, timing is always interesting, has decided, he couldn't ever do anything about it. It was the Republicans. He couldn't do anything about it, but now he put a new order in place. They're calling it the border order. So only 2,500 people can get through the border daily. Are you impressed, Zeke? Are you so impressed?
No, I'm not impressed at all. It's like, well, look, it's all getting really bad because it has to, because we've let so much evil in this world. That border is just the biggest red flag, the biggest meter of how bad we've let evil take over this world, guys. That border is letting fentanyl over willy-nilly, sex trafficking, child trafficking. The most evil things you can fathom on planet Earth are going through this border right now. And the thing is, I know, is it takes a while to fix things. But it is something you're going to fix overnight.
You knew we should try to get on. Do you follow Oscar Ramirez?
No.
Oscar Blue, he's like the best border reporter. He's based out of Tijuana. He's very conservative. And I caught a little bit of his last broadcast, and he was saying how they are, and I think he's right, they are using all these people. They're all being used. And he is a big hardcore, he loves his Mexico. He is a Mexican national. But he supports Trump, and he sees what's happening in the United States. You know what? I'm going to see if I can't. It'd be really cool to talk to him because he's been covering this for quite a few years. And right there on the border, he's gone down to the southern part of Mexico and talked to the people that are coming up. I mean, he really knows what's going on, and he's very much trying to bring, like we are, trying to bring you what's really happening and what's really down there instead of what you see being reported. And every time we've gone to Hatch in the last month or so, and there's a border patrol station, but you know, what are they really able to do? You know, I don't know. They're so busy being processors. It used to be a long time ago, they were actually trying to patrol the border. I don't know that they can really say that they are able to do that. I'm not blaming them necessarily because they can only do what they're able to.
Yeah, I just know it's going to be really difficult to get us out of this mess, guys. I mean, when George Washington was fighting the same spirit that, you know, trying to enslave humanity and, you know, take control of, you know, currency, it's the same battle. He prayed 3 to 4 hours a day. He put up a ton of his own money. He got killed almost several times. A lot of the other founding fathers got killed. Like, we got to be praying, guys, and we got to be working hard.
That is an amazing story of the father of our country, George Washington.
Yeah, I mean, he was just an insanely amazing human being. But that's just what it came to when you got to fight for freedom. Those guys were tired of being oppressed. They were getting dominated by the church. They were getting dominated by the city government. They were getting overtaxed. And you either fight or, you know, you die on your knees or you die on your feet. And, like, we got to get to that point spiritually, guys. You got to get to that point. There's a reason why God's in the Declaration of Independence, because that's the only thing that separated us from what they wanted to do. The only thing that we could say to get us away from the tyranny is like, look, God gives us these rights. We all agree here with our guns that God gives us these rights. Not you, not human, God.
And the hard left is trying to say, well, you know, these, what do they like to call us? Nationalists, whatever.
Right.
And that's a really evil
populist.
Populist and nationalists, because they believe that our rights come from God. Well, yeah, the Constitution says that. It says that. And that should be frightening to people if you are saying that, because I guess, have you not read the Constitution? Are you trying to change the Constitution? You know, how can you even state that?
And you know why we were able to have this country and have all this freedom and have the Constitution and all that is because it's true. It's true. When you admit and there's a truth and we agree on a truth, there's power in that truth. And the truth is God did give us those rights and he did create all this. And if you get away from that truth, you try to get away from God like they're trying to do, that's when you're going to let all that evil in. And that's what's going on right now. It's a spiritual battle, guys, to the max. I can't stress that enough. Praying.
So I want to have faith in the American people, and especially the fact because we still have World War II vets that are alive. Still.
That's badass.
It's really amazing. And I really want to believe that Americans want to remain free. But just as you said, we're gonna have to have the guts to do it and fight for our freedom. And we have tools now that we don't physically have to do that. But we need to become more aware and get better informed.
I love that spirit that they had, that grit, no quit. It's the hero's journey. You're going to battle some hardcore stuff. You're going to basically get on the brink of dying and losing, but you keep fighting and you break through. You know, that's what we're lacking in this country. That's what the founding fathers did. And there's people like you. You're like that. I mean, that's why we hang out. We're hard fighters. We do love this country. We do love freedom. We do love God. And that's really all you're going to have to. That's all we got right now. That's all we got.
We do. And we want to encourage you to please spread this video around. Spread this podcast. Because we're getting some really good feedback. If you haven't subscribed, please do it. We get it uploaded to YouTube and also to Rumble, because YouTube sometimes doesn't like
we gotta start on Rumble for sure now.
Things that we say.
Yeah, especially after today's. It's gonna get like this all the way through. Like, we're on the brink of World War III, guys. You know, they're hammering him right now. You know, it's like everything's getting so crazy. It's a crazy time to be alive. So this is the time to come together. It's the time to work hard. I feel like I'm not doing enough. and I work hard, but if you just think about the founding fathers and everything that they had to go through to get to this point, what we're going through right now really ain't nothing yet.
And just kind of, we always like to say encourage you and think about what you can do. Maybe you feel like, oh, I am so busy, I have so many things. You're trying to raise a family, you're working, everybody has things they have to do. But whatever you can eke out, you never know. You might be able maybe you have a commute to work. There's a lot of information you can listen to while you're commuting to work. There are people you can talk to. There are, what I do a lot of times, I still have some people in Arizona that follow us, so I'll send them a link to this. And they're like, oh, thanks, Alice, because I know it's a guest they'd be interested, or whatever. There are a lot of little things that you can do, and if you do something, even if, if you did that a half hour a week, that's a couple hours a month that you're putting towards a very good cause. It can happen.
It goes a long way. It really does. But that's it, guys. That's the show for today. A lot of intense stuff going on with a lot of really good topics. Don't give in to the hype of the lockdowns. Boost up your natural immunity. Say hey to your neighbor. Pray. Share this podcast.
Oh, and kudos to Oregon Mountain Studios.
Kudos to Oregon Mountain Studios.
Amy and Joey Garza always doing a great job there behind the cameras and the audio.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And thank you guys for tuning in, sharing. We are almost at 100 subs. I think we're 2 or 3 away. So
come on, Chipsters.
Once we do that, we'll do a little celebration. We'll actually bring some chips and salsa on the show.
That's a good promise. Yeah.
For 100 likes, 100 subs. Come on, guys. Sub it up for us.
And it's going to be hot because this is New Mexico. The salsa's hot here.
Yeah. I'm pretty picky about it. We'll find some good stuff.
Yeah.
We'll find some good
You're
stuff.
good. Your tolerance is probably higher than mine. I'm still working on mine.
Still a little heartburn, but I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
Do you want to do a prayer?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, all right, Lord, thank you so much for all the blessings that you've given us, for bringing us here today, the ability to talk to the people and their ability to listen to us and to share this podcast and to share the word of saving our country, saving humanity through our actions, and through our willingness to fight for our children and for freedom, Lord. I pray that you continue to give us the wisdom and energy to follow through with that, Lord. And we're just so grateful for everything that you've given us here, Lord. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Amen.
Always do a great job.
Thank you. So that's the show for today. Meditate on all that for a while. Think about it. Pray on it. We'll see you again next Monday. Who we got coming up next Monday?
I'm not sure. So it's a surprise. It'll be somebody good.
It'll be someone cool. It's always somebody cool. But we'll see you next Monday, and it's going to get crazy. The elections are going to be so crazy. We got Michael Caine on the ballot for sure. Fernando Macias won the district attorney primary. That was an interesting race. We'll talk about that next week. It's all going to be getting crazy from here on, guys.
Yeah, we'll have more candidates.
We'll have more candidates on. We got events that we're scheduling with the Republican Party, with Michael Caine's campaign. We'll invite you to that. And just get out there. We'll see you guys out there, all right?
All right.
Stay up.
Have a wonderful week.
Love you guys.